This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Monday, August 10th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So you'd see right now that I have Kodak up, or KODK, I don't know why, but the Kodak. I just want to bring up a point, just I preach constantly. What's the key to trading, guys? Key to being a successful, consistent trader is what? And don't say making money, because that's it. Controlling losses. I want you to look at this for a second, because I know this is what I did this morning. And I kind of was just very proud of my discipline after looking at it. How many people, guys, do you think are holding it from above 55 and expecting it to come back? How many people out there? You know what, Alex? That's a perfect answer. A scary amount. I just want you to understand something like this can ruin your entire trading career. If you would have went in with 1,000 shares, look at this gap down that we had. You'd be down over $50,000. At this point. So I just want you to understand, when you see this is the reason for that. The reason we don't chase, the reason we follow rules, the reason that we're controlling our losses is the most important discipline we need to have as a trader, is exactly for reasons like this. People end up chasing and then they hold, because it's like, oh, well, it's got to come back up eventually. It doesn't ever have to come back up eventually. All right. So just, when you see a chart like this, I honestly, it's kind of bittersweet, because I feel terrible for what I see, what happened to people, but at the same time, it's your own fault. If you're trading in the market and you don't know what you need to be doing, this is what happens. But this is why we don't hold losers and hope that they come back, because they can just keep going down and down and down, and it could literally ruin your trading career. So just something I wanted to start off with our morning. What's our focus today? All right, when we go into this morning, we want to focus on making sure that we're getting rid of our losers. We have our tight mental spot. If it hits that number, there's no option. It's over. Trade's over. You look for something else. All right, so let's talk about MCRB. So I know Doug had just brought up a point right here, and the thing that he was saying, so the volume's absolutely phenomenal, but how much building can be done in a bar that basically goes from a low of 1657 to a high of 1940? How much building could be done there? Basically none, right? So you have to understand something. This was a release point where we more than likely don't have a lot of buying that was coming back up there. Now, I don't mind the buying that we saw at 1750, but then we kind of made a pretty decent move above. You're talking about almost $1. And we do have a little bit of buying that's sitting at that 18, but not really that much. So just be careful when you see stuff like that. I mean, it's a great analyzation of what had to happen, because if you don't know what happened here, well, one thing we do know is they couldn't have built a huge amount. Most of it would have to come from the beginning part of pushing this bar up and continuing it from that point, and you're not going to be able to get tons of shares. So the fact that this is pulling back underneath is not shocking whatsoever. But overall, it still does, like I said, at 1750, I mean, they made $1. Does it still have some room? Do we have that 20 level up there? It does, but the thing is, I haven't seen great buying coming into it as it's been coming, as it's, been pulling back. And that's what we want to see, because of the fact that we need them to be able to build in order to go back up. So really the 16 level is going to be a huge one. If we can hold that 16 and trigger back, I'm completely comfortable with that being a high probability trade. If we don't hold this consolidation right here, all of this building is basically telling us that they probably either made their money and or it's going to be longer term, which is going to tell us that we're going to end up seeing it come back down. So the 16 level is going to give us a huge amount of information. Need to hold that. And like I said, if we hold and we get a trigger back to the upside, perfectly comfortable with high probability. Omer, I like this stock a lot. Now, it's weird. It's not doing much. It's not doing a ton of trading. But if you look, 460,000 shares on average, it only trades about 346,000. All right, so this is a huge amount coming in, which basically tells us we're going to be trading. Now, the one thing I really like is we come back over here at 749. You can see this buying that came in at 23, and this is what stands out to me, because there just wasn't much there to be able to do that. So the fact that they were able to buy that much at 23 definitely tells us longer term, which we came right back to the 20 level. Shocking, as always. But that 20, if we can get a release from here, there's money to be made towards that top side. And I like how smooth it's been traded. I know it doesn't look that smooth, but it really is based off the way I've been watching it this morning. I like how smooth it's been, even not really getting consistent volume coming in there. So biggest problem is going to be if it's going to trade, because we could open up and, it only trades 800,000 today. But it definitely has a lot of potential. So I like what I see there, especially, with those 23 prints, because that's a gigantic position for something like this than the way that it's been trading. Look at the print personality. So to do it that early, first of all, and that much above the print personality shows me a lot about what the market maker's thinking in this one. So I like that. Foot Locker, another one. Really smooth, even though the volume is not great. So the only problem here is that I really haven't seen too many controlling prints. You have this selling that came in, at the end of the market, which we can't really use. And then we have, ask prints at 30, but we don't really have much there yet. But it is, like I said, it's not really trading that much, and it's really smooth with a big range. All right, so this is something that it just interests me. I like these type of setups. Okay, typically I wouldn't even look at something like this, but based off of the way that it's trading with that no volume, definitely something that I'm going to be focused on. NKLA, which unfortunately just made that move above that 40, because that beautiful prints here at 40 was selling. So it looks like it gave that false breakout, but that's those sell prints. It didn't make any sense. So we ended up pulling all the way back down to pretty much right above 39 and then getting that trade above. So at this point, we got a little bit of buying at 42, not really sold on it, although it is parabolic. So you got to understand something. If the print personality is 4 and it's parabolic and it gets 3 or 2, that is a big deal. But overall, I need to see more, okay, because we're coming up on this measured move. So remember, after a measured move, a lot of the time we end up seeing it hit that top and make that measured move and then end up selling off and coming back down. So just be careful of that. But either way, it's shortable. So there's 100% going to be a trade here. It's just this was a beautiful pre-market trade from those ask prints that we got at 40. Okay, they enticed people in from that point, from those, but that bid prints told us so much that the stock still needed to pull back. Someone needed to make money on the short side, and then we needed to come back up above that 40. So we need to see more at 42, but overall, just a better show of hand because the trade's already actually happening. All right, you guys keep typing MGM. Let's look. All right. Yeah, I like it, but I don't like any of the prints. Just offhand, I'm not really seeing anything that I'm falling in love with. 2043, which is way too far away now. 22, I'm okay with, and more coming in at 22, but these look like it was somebody covering. I'm coming down there, especially with the reaction being selling right afterwards. Yeah, it's shortable. It definitely fits every criteria that we have. I just don't see a great trade in it yet, but I can guarantee the interest and the volume that we see coming into it. We'll get some controlling prints, and then from there, we're just going to follow our rules for an execution. Plug. So Plug, we got about 5 ask prints that came in at 12. I have to talk about this, and I have to keep this up because this is something I've been, watching for so long. And you can see the way that it's still set up, it did not pop enough for this flag that we have here. You'd say 80 cents is a lot, but it's really not, considering the fact that they built from, early July, before July. So I still see a lot of potential that's coming into this. You can see right here, we had a few more prints that came in at that 12 level. Excuse me, those were the 12 prints. And you had some really nice buying around that 1150. So I do not in any way believe that this thing is done and over with yet. Going to be on our side list. IBIO, beautiful, probably one of the better, cheaper stocks that we've seen. Okay, one thing to note, if you don't already have it in your notes, is that there was refreshing on the ask as we came up over about, it was about right here. Because then we ended up pulling back, but we didn't really pull back enough. So we have this print line underneath, refreshing on the ask at 470, which tells us that 5 should be there. And you can see this beautiful buying that's starting to come in. So I like IBO, all the variables in there big time. But if you do not have refreshing on the ask written down for 470, make sure that you're putting that in your notes. And then Mara. So the only problem that I have with these cheap stocks is they're always freaking near 5. And I hate that level. It's just one of those levels that it's a hard one to get past because it needs to build there. But Mara, remember the story. We do have buying that's sitting up at their 5. And one thing I really liked, if it lets me go back, okay, right here, I loved this this burst that came in right underneath that 5 level, because that's compared to what the print personality and everything else that we've seen this morning. That's really a big deal. And you can see right here, 466 was pretty decent as well, but really ballsy prints to have right underneath the 5. So Another one where it's got a lot of potential. I'm not a huge fan of the way that it's trading right now, but the potential is 100% there. All right, guys. Anything else out there that I missed? WKHS, nice selling at 15. All right, let's see. So nice buying around that 16 too. Nice buying at 15. I don't see it. Well, and 100%. I see way more selling in here. I mean, did you mean 16, Doug, by chance? I just don't see any. So we got 17 at 9 o'clock. Beautiful. Or maybe it sell at 15. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Nice selling at 15. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So this is the pull-up that's coming up from there. You can see the selling reaction that came in, even more selling as it got back up towards that top. That kind of pushed it off a little bit. A little bit of buying, which tells us that we definitely expect a little bit longer of a time frame for it to pull up, and then shorting it. So perfect. Like it a lot. That's not even a sideless stock either. That's a regular focus on stock. All right, so remember, we have Traders Exchange tomorrow, Tuesday. We have Group Trade Evaluation Wednesday, and we have Silent Day on Thursday. Let's get ready for our morning. Let's make sure we're focusing on our patterns, especially for our group trade evaluations, okay? Make sure that you're getting them in there for every single trade that you're making. I know I said this on Friday, excuse me, not Friday, on Thursday, because we pushed it back a day, okay? But if you don't do your trade evaluation, someone is. Okay, it's either you do it or the person that's taking your money does it. So your choice. All right, guys, let's get ready for our morning. I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.